So what happens when a guy who allegedly scammed people out of more than $500 million just vanishes into the desert? Well, there are really only two questions that matter, right? Who wanted him gone, and how far were they willing to go to collect? Let's get into this unbelievable story of digital money and deadly consequences.
You know, when you think of the United Arab Emirates, you probably think of luxury, finance, and safety. It's one of the safest places in the world. But in October 2025, it became the backdrop for a truly chilling disappearance, one that shines a light on a new and pretty brutal form of debt collection.
So the big question is, how does a super high-profile couple just disappear in a place like Dubai? It turns out, the whole thing started with a meeting that was never really a meeting at all. It was a trap.
Okay, so this was not some random crime. This was a professionally executed abduction, 100%. On October 2nd, the Novaks are lured out to this remote resort, told they're meeting investors. They get there, calmly get into a different car, and poof, they're gone. By that evening, all contact is cut. But here's the really wild part. The world didn't even know they were missing for over a month. A whole month of silence. I mean, that tells you everything, doesn't it?
Right, so a month of silence. That points to a very specific goal. And to figure out what these kidnappers were really after, you have to understand the mind-boggling amount of money Roman Novak owed to some very, very powerful people. Our story really starts here, with a cool $100 million lie. It was a Ponzi scheme called Profitable Sunrise. See, long before he was a crypto guru, Roman Novak had already mastered the art of the scam, targeting vulnerable investors until regulators finally shut him down.
And look, this guy wasn't some ghost. He was a known criminal. This right here, this official cease-and-desist order from way back in 2013, is just one piece of a very long paper trail. Regulators from North America all the way to Europe were trying to stop this guy for years.
So, after doing some prison time in Russia, did Novak retire? No way. He just rebranded. He moved to the UAE, launched a shiny new crypto app called Fintopio. And what do you know, he raised $500 million, and then, surprise, surprise, the same old accusations of fraud started flying all over again. So you add it all up, and you're looking at over $600 million in alleged fraud. Now, a debt that large doesn't just create a few angry investors. No, a number like that creates enemies. Enemies with the resources and the ruthlessness to fund a full-on cross-border kidnapping.
So when the news of their disappearance finally broke, the story went in two completely different directions. Was this a truly horrific crime, or was it all just some bizarre publicity stunt?
Okay, with a story this messy, you've got to separate fact from fiction. In one corner, you have the official Russian investigative committee. They're saying, nope, this was a kidnapping that ended in murder, and they have arrests to back that up. In the other corner, you have these vague, unsubstantiated reports claiming the Novaks were fine and it was all a hoax, but with no real evidence.
In a case like this, you follow the official action, not the whispers. And a government doesn't open a murder investigation and detain 7 people on a whim. The legal steps that Russia took are the strongest evidence we have that Roman and Anna Novak were in fact murdered.
All right, so if we accept that it was murder, the next question is obvious. Who did it, and how on earth did they think they could get away with it? Well, the answer reveals this incredibly sophisticated plan, one that was designed to exploit international law from the very beginning. This was not a sloppy crew. They were highly organized. Russian authorities detained 7 people. You had 3 who were the muscle, the alleged murderers from Russia and Kazakhstan. And then you had the other 4, who were the brains, the financial intermediaries tasked with actually getting Novak's money. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a meticulously planned operation. And here is the genius of their plan. They commit the murder in the UAE, a country with very strict laws. But then they immediately flee back to Russia. Why? Because Russia almost never extradites its own citizens. By doing this, they were effectively choosing their own courthouse, ensuring they would face the Russian justice system, not the potentially much harsher penalties of the UAE.
So, what does this all mean? This case isn't just about one man's crimes. It signals a dark and violent evolution in how high-value financial scores get settled in the digital age.
This case represents a new and, frankly, terrifying trend. We're calling it kinetic retribution. It's what happens when hundreds of millions of dollars are locked behind digital walls and creditors decide that physical force is the only way to collect. They just bypass the courts entirely.
You know, probably the most chilling detail from the investigation is the belief that the Novaks were murdered because the kidnappers failed to get the money.
His crypto was likely so secure that even after a month of coercion, they couldn't break in. So when the digital fortress is too strong, the attackers turn their violence on the person holding the keys.
This whole story suggests a chilling new reality. In the world of decentralized, untraceable crypto fortunes, have we entered an era where brutal vigilante justice is the new price of collection? The evidence from this case seems to point to yes.